physical ailment, that does not mean that the emotional toll over 4 years switches on and off like a light. So I hope the medical community listens to what she's saying, because she's in the majority and not in the minority. For those also who tuned into last show, you know that September is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. And I know it's March, right in the middle of March Madness. However, only creating awareness for 1 month will not solve the blood cancer epidemic. So we will continue to spread the word, and we ask our listeners to please do the same. Pacific Islanders having an extremely tough time. Hispanic people are severely underrepresented. Our Asian friends are underrepresented. Our African American friends are underrepresented. Our Haitian American friends are underrepresented. And I had discussion with some minority groups, in fact, last Wednesday, and they're suffering the consequences of people not swabbing, and frankly, not having the knowledge to traverse the waters of how to recruit bone marrow donors. Patients suffering from these aforementioned ethnicities will find a match less than 50% of the time. So what does that mean? Over 50% of the people in those ethnicities that I just mentioned will die for lack of having an unrelated donor. And quite frankly, it's not acceptable. As a community, as a country, as a world, we have to band together, learn how to traverse those waters, and we have to work harder and work smarter. If you're interested in running a drive, learning how to run a recruitment drive to save people's lives, please call Bridget, Nathan, or Frederick at 1-800-9-MARROW to get information on how you can get involved. And when you call up, they give you step-by-step explanation and instructions on how you could get involved and save people's lives. So it's very easy to do. All you have to do is make the phone call. If you're interested in calling today into our show, the number is 1-888-565-1470. Again, it's 1-888-565-1470. For those who have been our supporters, welcome back, and we thank you for all that you've done to spread awareness and transpire action for our show and for our cause. Because of you, we are ranked the #1 radio show on 1470 WWNN, our flagship station, as well as being the #1 bone marrow radio show worldwide. And yes, there is more than one. As previously mentioned, thanks to you, our supporters, our show is now syndicated in 6 cities. So what does that mean? It means more awareness, more people swabbing, more contributions, and the culmination of everybody's help will equal more lives being saved. In 2014 alone, Gift of Life was responsible for saving 130 lives, bringing our total to date to about 3,000, and not only the patients in need, but their loved ones and their family members as well. Congratulations, team at 800 Yamato Road in Boca Raton, and congratulations to our listeners listening here at 1470, as well as our other syndicated cities. Without all of our collective efforts, we never could have made this happen. As we started new in 2015, I want to touch upon Arlene Feinberg, the matriarch of Gift of Life, who unfortunately passed away in January of 2014. Arlene had a vision. Her vision was to find a match anytime, anywhere, for anyone that is suffering from blood cancer. In 2015, the mantra of the Gift of Life with Gregg show is to make Arlene's vision Arlene's reality. And her son and the executive director, Jay Feinberg, is working arduously to make that happen. So, Jay, we're all behind you. And your mom, who is the matriarch of our fine organization, we're going to make her vision her reality. For those people who are tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you could join us for Gift of Life with Gregg. I'm Gregg Francis, and welcome to our show. We encourage all of our listeners to call in at any time today, 1-888-565-1470. Again, that's 1-888-565-1470. We broadcast live from Boca Raton, where it's about 86 degrees, every Tuesday evening from 4 to 5 p.m., right here in our flagship WWNN 1470. We're here to spread awareness. That's why we do it every week, about the Gift of Life Bone Marrow Foundation, which is a life-saving nonprofit 501c3 that gives patients like our 7-year-old friend Sammy, whom I saw recently, a second chance at life. We want to remind everyone of how special life is, how every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. Please take stock of what I'm saying. Every day of health and happiness is a true gift of life. Before I go any further, I have to thank my own gifts of life. People who make me smile every day and remind me of how lucky I am. To undoubtedly my biggest fan, my mom, Katie, who's very, very nearby in Boca Raton. Thank you, Mom. I love you. To my biggest Maryland fans, hello and thank you, Grandma Margie, who listens every week in the greater Baltimore area. And to the chairman of our board, Billy Beagle, who could be in 2 states and 5 countries representing Gift of Life, always in fine fashion. He's been doing this for 2 decades. And to my 2 boys who are my gifts of life, Nicholas, who is 12, and Patrick, who you're going to find out because he's my special guest this week in studio, is here with us. So, Nicholas, I love you. And Patrick, I could say it to you in person, I love you. So, Patrick, tell our listening audience, how old are you?
8 years old.
8 years old. And what grade are you in, Pat?
2nd grade.
You're in 2nd grade and 8 years old. My, how time flies. So, Patrick, I know that you play soccer. So what position do you play?
Striker.
And did you score a lot of goals this season?
Yes.
How many?
4.
Wow, the 4 goals. So are you lefty or righty?
Lefty.
So a lefty soccer player. So, Pat, are you playing soccer now?
No, baseball.
So we started baseball. And what position do you play in baseball?
Pitcher.
So a left-hander pitcher, Patrick, that's a needed commodity. And we have Ken on the other side of the glass thinking that you could have a long career in the majors. So, Patrick, I want to thank you for being my special co-host today. And feel free, we're going to have guests calling in. Our co-host for 2015 has been Marty Freund, but Marty was not able to make it today due to a family incident. So running solo today along with my son and my co-host Patrick. So Patrick, we have to talk about a few things, normally stuff that Marty would talk about, but we have a few walks that are coming up. Most notably, the first one is in Massachusetts outside of Chestnut Hill, which is home of the Boston College Eagles. And that walk is going to take place on Sunday, April the 26th. Dad's going to go up, a couple of the people in the office, and we're expecting a lot of Boston College students to come up. But I want to pose a contest to everybody that's in the greater Boston proper area. Let's have a contest to see how many university students from each school will attend the walk. And whoever wins, we will have a representative of their school on our show, Gift of Life with Gregg, at a time of their choice. So that's the challenge that we're putting out to the greater Boston schools. So it's going to be a great walk, and why it's going to be great is we're going to meet a donor and the person's life that they saved, and this particular walk is particularly emotional to me as the recipient is a 3-year-old. So it's a baby being saved by a perfect stranger, and it doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get more emotional than that, and it certainly emphasizes the need that more people have to get involved. We have a couple of other exciting things on the docket. Golf tournament on March the 30th, which is the 3rd Boca West charity golf tournament. Gift of Life won in its inaugural season. And it's very exciting. The proceeds all go to 16 nonprofits in and around greater Boca Raton. And 16 nonprofits are vying on the golf course, but everybody wins because we're trying to promote and foster great things for the underprivileged children of Boca Raton and South Florida. So again, it's going to be great to see our fellow colleagues in the nonprofit world. And a special thank you to Arthur Adler for putting on this event for the third season. The tournament is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz. So the winner and their foursome get to play at Pinehurst in North Carolina. So that's going to be extremely exciting. The fun doesn't only end on Monday. Tuesday night, Jay Leno is coming to town to Boca West. The doors open up at 6 p.m. The Atlantic City boys are opening up, and Jay Leno is going to come on at 8. Tickets are still available for a very short period of time. And the beauty of sponsoring or purchasing a ticket, the organization, in this case Gift of Life, will receive the total amount of the proceeds of the ticket price. So if you purchase 2 tickets for $300, you get to see a great show. Gift of Life receives that $300 and will put that towards testing kits. So you have a great night of entertainment and you help out with saving lives. I don't know what could be better. Also, even quicker than next Monday and Tuesday, this Thursday, let's shop for a cause. Lord & Taylor at the Meisner Park location. $5. You could purchase tickets on our Facebook page or by calling up 1-800-9-MARROW or stop by our office at 800 Yamato Road in Boca Raton, 33431. What will $5 get you, Pat? It's a good question. 3 savings passes, 1 for 15% off and 2 more for 25% off. So for you shopaholics, I don't know of a better deal out there right now. So it's going to be a great event. So in the next week, we have Shop for a Cause. We have the 3rd annual Boca West charitable golf tournament for the nonprofits in Boca Raton and South Florida. And the next night, we have the Jay Leno concert. So again, tickets are still available. If you're interested, please call up 1-800-9-MARROW. Anita's waiting for your call. We'll get those tickets overnighted to you. Please, but you have to order and you have to call to get them. The tickets are going to be sold out quickly. Speaking of causes and speaking about fundraising, I always like to peruse the New York Times, Huffington Post, and I'm going to read a few quotes from the Association of Professional Fundraising. You know, it's so good to give, and we're speaking about a 3-year-old on April 26th is going to be there with their family because of an unrelated donor, never knowing if they're going to meet. So the power of a few could spread to the power of many. And I'm going to read you a few quotes from a few famous people about fundraising. And this is from Charles Dickens. No one is useless in the world who lightens the burdens of another. Which means, you know what, you serve great to humanity if you could help somebody. Number 2, which is one of my favorite all time by Albert Einstein. It is every person's obligation to put back in the world at least the equivalent of what they take out of it. So again, that's a very moving quote from me, and it's something that I ask my children to live by. And last but not least, think of giving in any capacity, not only as a duty, but as a privilege. And that quote was from Rockefeller. And that's going to tie in to our special guest today, along with Patrick, is going to be Nicholas Hudson. And you're going to hear about his very interesting journey with Gift of Life in a segment that I'm calling Nick's Degrees of Separation, as a takeoff of the 6 Degrees of Separation with Kevin Bacon. So when we come back from our commercial break, we're going to meet this heroic man, and he's going to introduce us from his journey from Emory University to what he's doing today and exciting new initiatives for Gift of Life. So please stay tuned. This is going to be a very wonderful show. We'll be back in a few.
ThrowItBetter.com. Do you need help with your bowling game? Are you taking the right 5-step approach? If you want to become a competitive bowler, even a recreational bowler that's considering joining a league, or a league bowler that is considering joining a tournament, you need to see Vince. He's going to show you how to throw it better. He'll get you the right equipment. He'll show you the right approach. And as a certified coach, he'll put you in the best position to succeed. If you're interested, please contact Vince at throwitbetter@gmail.com and tell him that Gregg sent you. Again, That's throwitbetter@gmail.com or call Vince at 954-541-5414.
We want to extend a special thanks to our friends at the Boca West Foundation for all the wonderful work they do for Gift of Life and for all the meaningful service they give to the Boca Raton community. For over 3 years, the Boca West Foundation has generously supported local charities in the Boca Raton area. The Boca West Foundation. It's all about the kids. Are you in the market for a health plan? If so, please visit my good friend Gary at Health Plans Unlimited. No plan is too big or too small. Gary will customize a plan that's affordable and comprehensive, just for you. If you're interested, please visit Gary Goldman, the best in the biz, at www.healthplansunlimited.com. Again, that's www.healthplansunlimited.com. Or you can call Gary Goldman directly on his personal line at 954-303-6676. Again, that's 954-303-6676. And tell him that Gregg sent you directly from the Gift of Life. Health Plans Unlimited. We have the health plan for you. Welcome back to the Gift of Life with Gregg, the show that talks about giving and receiving. If you'd like to call into our show, we'd love to hear from you. Please call 888-565-1470. Again, that's 888-565-1470. And now, back to our show.
Welcome and a happy March 21st, 2015 to everybody. Right before the break, we spoke about the importance to give, the importance to make the world a better place because people are needlessly dying. Speaking of thinking of giving not only as a duty, but as a privilege. And our special guest today, I think, personifies that better than just about anybody that I've ever met. So without further ado, I want to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Nick Hudson. Nick, welcome to Gift of Life with Gregg.
Thanks so much, Gregg. Thank you for the very kind words.
And say hello to my special guest, Nicholas, also, my son, Patrick, my son, Patrick.
Oh, Patrick, what's going on?
Say hi, Pat.
Hi.
And that's Nicholas. Say hi to Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas.
All right.
You're doing a great job, Patrick. Keep it up.
Patrick's going to take over my job. So Nick, we aptly called this show today Nick's Degrees of Separation. And I want to chronicle your life back in your college days to where you are now with exciting initiative that's rolled out, but it's going to really be rolled out for the academic year 2015-2016. So let's begin on your journey. Talk me back to 2006, almost 9 years ago.
Yeah, making me feel old with that. It's 2006. I was a junior in college. I went to school in Atlanta, Georgia, at a school named Emory University. And there was a blood drive one day in the campus center. And I used to give blood often. So, I was there that day, that morning. And at the end of the blood drive, there was something different there that day. There was a cheek swab table set up. And at the time, I didn't know what that was, but someone asked me, if I could swab my cheek when I was done donating blood. And that someone was actually a pretty girl, so I said yes. And at that point, at the point when people are done giving blood, usually they have like cookies or juice or whatever, and they're kind of just hanging out. So that's when they were swabbing people's cheeks. And at that point, that's when I joined the Gift of Life Registry.
Okay, I want to get you out of trouble. I know Nicholas's lovely girl, Katie, so this was pre-Katie, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm looking out for a friend and colleague. So you swabbed. You didn't give blood. I know that you gave blood before, and you swabbed. And could you explain the process?
Sure. It was really simple. So all we did was fill out a quick sheet with some information, name, email, all that stuff. Took about 1 minute, and then after that, you take a Q-tip and you swab your own cheek, and you put it in what looks like a little envelope almost. And the volunteer that day pretty much just sealed it up and put it in a box. And that's how easy it was. I was done in probably 2 minutes. And I had no idea that 2 minutes would alter my life so much.
Yeah, you didn't think that, and it's certainly proof right now. So, as long as we've had this dialogue, it's quicker to swab all four quadrants of your mouth, seal it in the envelope, and ship it back.
Exactly. So I think I was, from the time I got that sheet in front of me till the time that it was packed up was, I'd say probably about 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops. And then it was all shipped back. I found out later to the Gift of Life. And that's when, the wheels started turning.
Who knew that 2 minutes could be so transformative? So let's scoot down. This started. You swabbed in Emory in 2006, and you were still attending Emory, I believe, in 2008. Is that correct?
I actually just graduated, and I was doing a gap year between Kyle undergrad and grad school, and I was living out in Chicago for a year.
Great city. So you graduated in 2008, is that correct, or 2007?
And 2008 is when I got the call from Gift of Life.
So what happened when you got that call? What were you thinking in Chi-Town?
Well, it actually took them a while to get in touch with me because, like I said, I had given blood off, and so I used to get calls all the time from New York Blood Center from New York, requesting that I give blood because I'm type O and it's needed. So I had gotten a missed call and, didn't really think about it, which from who I thought was a New York Blood Center call. Because I found out later, Gift of Life located in Boca was area code 561. My area code is 516. So, in my head, when I received that call, I was like, I know what this is about. And didn't know. Then, since they couldn't get in touch with me right away, from the time I had filled out that form at Emory till the time that they called me, my number had changed and my email had changed because I had put down my old college email address. So they couldn't reach me. So I got a missed call from, first, my father, because I was at work. And I was like, I'm at work, I can't take this up. And then I went out with some friends after that, got another missed call. I saw that it was from him again. I was like, I'm out with my friends right now. I'm not going to call him back.
And you thought, just to interrupt, this is Gift of Life with Gregg, and we're speaking with Nicholas Hudson, who is telling us his story back when he graduated Emory. A great guest. He's been on a few times before. So, again, Nicholas, continue. We're in 2008, and to recap, you're from Long Island, New York, just like myself. We're both two Long Island boys. So 561, which is the area code for Palm Beach, Florida, and 516, where we're from, could be very easily transposed in the mind.
Exactly. So that's why I first didn't pick it up. And then, I got a bunch of missed calls. Finally, I got in touch with Gift of Life, and I said, hi, I think you're trying to reach me. And I was a very excited person from the Gift of Life office on the other end. And they were very excited, and they told me the good news. They said, we've been trying to reach you because you're a perfect match for a 4-year-old boy who has leukemia. And I was kind of floored because I had no idea that was the case. So I'm sure they might have been a little nervous for 24 hours when they couldn't get in touch with me. But when I received that call, I was ecstatic, and I was just happy. Of course, I said yes. I was happy to do whatever I could to help, that little boy.
And let me ask you, what information, again, this is Nick Hudson. I don't want to ruin too much because it's a very interesting story and aptly called Nick's Degrees of Separation instead of 6 Degrees of Separation. So Nicholas, I don't want to ruin the story. So anyhow, Gift of Life was frantically trying to track you down, which congratulations, 800 Yamato Road, they did. And at that point, what did they tell you? Just the age of the boy and his affliction?
Correct. Yeah, they said he was a male. He was 4 years old, a little boy, and that he has leukemia.
And at this point, they asked you to go for further testing?
Yeah, at that point, they said, it's called preliminary testing. They said, could you go and get a blood test in what was like a local lab course? So I went to a place, a couple blocks away from where I live. Just took, an hour out of my day and got a blood test. And that confirmed that I was the best match for that particular patient, that little boy.
And we're gonna circle back to this later, Nicholas. I know how old you are now, but how old were you at the time when you were determined by the patient's physician that you were the best match?
I was 22 then.
Okay, and people remember that age, 22. So what happens next, Nicholas, along this trajectory when you found out that you were the perfect match?
After I went for that confirmatory blood test, I actually went to the hospital where they said the donation would take place. So Gift of Life flew me to Baltimore because the transplant was scheduled to be at University of Maryland Hospital, which is in Baltimore. And I flew out there in the morning, had a physical during the day, and then flew back that afternoon. So, it was pretty easy. And at the time, I had off every Wednesday for my work schedule, so I actually didn't even miss a day of work to get that done.
And just to talk chronologically, at this point, you just went for further testing, but you did not know at that point if you would be the perfect match, correct?
Up to that blood test, no, I didn't know. It wasn't until I got the physical where it became very apparent that this was going to happen as long as the patient was in good enough shape for it to happen.
And so we're talking to our listening audience who this might be foreign to. Why would they go to you instead of somebody in their family?
At the time, I didn't really know. I didn't know all the background to it. But knowing what I do now, I realized that over 75% of the time it isn't a family member. A lot of people are under the illusion that it should be a parent or a sibling or a cousin. In reality, it's usually a sibling or, a total stranger. And that's the case over 75% of the time. So what they told me was, although you're not this person's sibling, this little boy, you are a perfect genetic match for a donation.
And it's really fascinating. That's why I say every week when we do this show, Nick, that there's so many unrelated donors needed, so many perfect strangers needed to step up to help underrepresented ethnicities, to help represented ethnicities, because of the metric that you just said. Over 75%, the life-saving donor is going to come from somebody unrelated.
Exactly, and that's still surprising to people when they hear that today. To think, I think it's a little scary to think that someone's life depends on a total stranger and the generosity of that stranger. It's certainly something, we don't really have a lot of control over, so I think that's why it's so surprising to people.
So we're going back now to between 2006 and 2008. You hear it's a 4-year-old boy. You don't know if you're going to be the perfect match, so to say. You don't know if you're ever going to meet. What incentivized you to do this, knowing that it wasn't a family member, knowing that you may never meet the individual? Why?
I just think it was the right thing to do. I didn't have anybody in my family who was afflicted by blood cancer, by leukemia or lymphoma. I had never really had any sort of personal attachment to it or any reason other than that I thought it was the right thing to do. In terms of the registration, which I discussed earlier with the cheek swab, it was so simple, it was hard to say no. And then when I got that call that there was a 4-year-old boy who had done nothing wrong in his life to deserve living in a hospital since probably the moment he could remember, there wasn't really any way to say no to that. I don't know how someone could. And for me, it was a no-brainer. The incentivization was just that it was the right thing to do and that there was someone out there who needed me.
And somebody needed you, and we're gonna continue with the story, but it's a very important point that you made. No child signs up to spend their first 4 years of life in a hospital. That's why we need people like you in the world. So, Nick, while our listening audience is waiting, they want to know if you were the perfect match.
I was.
All right. So
and that's why I'm on the call here today.
So you won lotto. You became the perfect match for a 4-year-old boy in need. And the next step, when you found out after your physical exam that you're the perfect match to save a 4-year-old boy, what happened?
After that, they scheduled the date for the actual donation. So about a month later after that physical, where I went to Baltimore. I flew in the night before, went to the hospital in the morning, and did the bone marrow donation. So I was out by the afternoon. I had thought, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about what a bone marrow donation is. So, I had taken a week off work. I thought I was going to be laid up in a hospital. I thought I might even just be so sore that I couldn't really move around too much. That wound up not being the case at all. I was discharged from the hospital that afternoon, the same day I donated, and I flew home to Chicago the next day. So it was pretty simple. I remember having this funny moment in the airport when I left Baltimore, and I guess there was a note in my file or in my ticket or whatever for the plane, and they had to have somebody wheel me to the gate in a wheelchair. And I was like, this is silly. I'm fine. I can walk. And so, I always remember that because I was surprised, and I think that they, must have had some sort of notice that I had just donated bone marrow, so it might not be in, tip-top physical shape. And here I was, strolling in with my suitcase to, less than 24 hours after I had done it. So the donation was a lot simpler than I thought, and a lot of other people think.
And Nicholas, by statistical terms, you were in the minority with the actual bone marrow donation because around 80% of the time it's peripheral blood stem cell. And if you could explain that.
Yeah, exactly. So I found that out a little bit later too, as I researched it. But over 80% of the time, bone marrow donation, so to speak, what people do to save somebody else's life in this scenario is all done through the blood. So how it happens 80% of the time is even different from what I did. What most people do is they just go to the hospital in the morning, but then they donate blood just like normal. Instead of it lasting about 30 minutes, it lasts, about 5 hours. But what happens is essentially they donate blood. It goes through a machine called an apheresis machine, which separates, specific cells that are needed.
Right.
And then the blood comes right back into the person's other arm. So it's this little cycle continues, and they're awake the whole time. They watch a movie, they read a book, take a nap, and at the end of those 5 hours, they're a lifesaver, literally.
Right, and they could probably play basketball or tennis the next day, or maybe if they want to take a day off.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that most people don't know that at all. Every time, even to this day, when I talk about how that's how it's done over 80% of the time, people are shocked. And even people in the medical community, there's a lot of people who don't understand how easy it is, and that apheresis procedure, which is done, to donate platelets or to donate plasma, that's how bone marrow donation is done. So a lot of people don't really understand that, and I think the more that people hear that, the less misconceptions there will be, and the more donations there will be because of it.
So let's get to the exciting part. In the United States, what year, for our listening audience, again, this is Gift of Life with Gregg. We're speaking to Nick Hudson, who's in New York, and he's discussing how he was a life-saving, unrelated donor for a 4-year-old boy, and he had a bone marrow transplant. So, Nick, this was in 2008?
That's correct.
Okay. In the United States, there's a 1-year moratorium between when a donor and recipient can meet, and there has to be an agreement on both sides that they both wish to meet. And was that the case with you, Nicholas?
It was. Yeah, so after a year, I got an email from Gift of Life, and it said, happy anniversary. It's been 1 year. At this point, if you would like, you can give your personal information, your name, your phone number, your address, email, whatever you want, any, combinations of all those, and you can give it to the recipient. We'll give it for you.
And tell us about, and he was on our inaugural show, which was, believe it or not, about 36 shows ago.
Wow.
That the young man was on our inaugural show with you, Nicholas. What was it like meeting, I guess the little boy was now 5, correct?
That's right, yeah. So I found out that he was now, 5 years old, and I got an email back from Gift of Life with his information. And, since he was so small, it was really his parents' information. So I got an email right after that, and it said, their name, the parents' name, their last name, their address, their phone, and email. And it said, here's their info. They have yours. Enjoy, pretty much. So I remember I sent them an email a little while after that. I remember at this point I was actually in law school, and I was finishing up class one day, and teacher was going over some stuff that didn't really matter. So I figured this is a good time. This is a good time as any to send this life-changing email to somebody. So I just wrote, hi, I got your email from Gift of Life. I was your son Cameron's donor, and I just like to be in touch, and I hope that everything's going well. And here's my information again in case you need it, and would love to hear from you soon. And I got an email back like 2 seconds later that said, we're so happy, we've been waiting. We weren't sure if we should send one to you or if we should wait. And they sent me a long email with, pretty much his whole story. And a link that I always remember was a link to a website called Care Pages. And Care Pages is a site that a lot of patients would document kind of their experience on through pictures and letters, and people can, friends and family can write them messages where they could just access them quickly. So it was Cam's Care Page, and I got to see, all the messages that all his friends and family wrote to him, and I got to see the pictures that they essentially documented his life with for those 2 years while he was undergoing treatment, from the minute he got to the hospital till he came home, and when he, relapsed and had to go through the whole work up to the transplant. So I feel like I got to meet their whole family through looking at all these pictures and reading all these messages. And, that led us to emailing even more and choosing a time to meet. And, about a month after that, we actually got to meet face to face.
It's really a phenomenal story. So you met the little boy whose life you saved, and he was 5 years old at the time. And just like we mentioned a date on the show that I'm going to ask you about a question later, it's April 26th is our Boston Walk. And I know, but we're going to circle back to that. You mentioned Nicholas in 2009, and again, this is Gift of Life with Gregg. If you'd like to call in, it's 1-888-565-1470. My special co-host today is Patrick, my son, and on the phone we have Nicholas Hudson. And in his journey with Gift of Life, he has just met Cameron, who he transplanted bone marrow to at the time in 2008 when Cameron was 4. Now Cameron is in 2009 and 5, and they met for the first time. You also mentioned, Nicholas, in 2009 you were in law school. So do you want to give a law school a plug?
Yeah, sure. So I went to St. John's Law School in New York.
I'm sorry about the tournament this past weekend.
Yeah, that was a little rough. Watched it with some friends. I was a little disappointing, but I was just happy to be in the Big Ten, honestly. So it could have gone better, but at least we made it this year. So that's just stepping stone. Yeah,
it was a few rough years for the Johnnies. As I told you, I'm from Long Island as well, and that was a team that I rooted for when I considered the Big East to be the Big East. Now I don't. Now we have teams in Indiana and other places, but
yeah, exactly.
But it was nice to see them in the tournament again. So 2011 was a special year for you at St. John's as well.
It was. So that's when I graduated, and I started working, shortly thereafter in Brooklyn as a lawyer, and then, kind of always had this inkling that I wanted to do something else. I'd always remained close to Cameron and kind of seen him grow up. I'd always remained close to Gift of Life. And a little bit after that, in 2012, I started working for Gift of Life in late 2012.
So you invested certainly time and money in law school, but it certainly wasn't wasted. You got your Juris Doctor degree. You learned a lot, but there's something that drew you to Gift of Life as opposed to practicing big law. And what might it be for people that want to have their occupation in the nonprofit world?
Sure, and for me, it was always about the personal attachment I felt. I'm sure lots of people out there either don't like their job or feel like they could be doing something else or want to be doing something else. For me, I never hated law. I didn't, I wasn't one of those people who woke up every day and hated life and wanted to get out. And that wasn't really the case. It really, for me, was about, the pull to do something, a little bit for the greater good, and the fact that I had such an important history with Gift of Life, and such a personal connection to the good that it does, because I saw firsthand how it saves lives, and I saw firsthand how it can incorporate people who don't even know the impact they can make to do that as well. So I wanted to be a part of that, and the chance to work and get a paycheck to do something you love and that helps people. That's, for me, to this day, still a very incredible thing, and I feel very honored I can do that.
No, and you're an honored employee of Gift of Life. And when you go out and speak to people that want to join the registry, by what you have done certainly validates, gives you a certain sense of empowerment, gives you a certain sense of credibility that the layperson won't have, because you actually done it. You graduated law school, decided not to practice law, but come on board for a Gift of Life. And let's circle back to one more thing before we go on to the next iteration. April 26th is our first annual Boston Walk for Life, which is going to be in the Chestnut Hill Reservoir outside of Boston College in Chestnut Hill. Who are you going to be seeing at that walk?
I'll be walking with Cam and his family, which is going to be a very, very incredible thing. He lives, and his family live right outside of Boston, so I'm going to be hanging with him. So that'll be really exciting, and just to be able to spend a day, and for him to see, his face on a couple different flyers, I think is pretty cool. So I'm really looking forward to it. I know his family is too.
So just going back to the story, you saved this critically ill boy suffering from blood cancer at 4 years old. You met him at 5, and now you're going to be walking a 5K with him on April 26th. And how old is he now?
He's going to be turning 12 later in the year, so it's pretty.
It's
pretty
amazing.
Wild to see him grow up. He was quite literally a little small child, both physically and maturity, and now he's just, going to be going to junior high soon. So it makes me feel old, but it's really incredible to see, just how he's really grown, before my eyes.
It's incredible. So you're going to be walking with who calls you his blood brother? So 12-year-old Cameron, 8 years after you swabbed for him, and at 8 years, almost 10 years after you swabbed for him, 8 years after the transplant. So tell our listening audience, how is his health today?
The big reason why, his health today is great. His health today is great. So, I mean, he's totally healthy. He's in school. He's playing sports. He's, having a great time. So it's really cool to see him finally, he gets to have a normal childhood now and a normal life. And just being able to do these little walks, for me, that's the big reason why I'm excited to come and be a part of it. As a walker, not just as a staff member.
Correct. And if you could, I plug it every week, but I know this is extremely emotional for you too. But what do you think is the biggest takeaway of all the walks that we have? And this year 5, and next year I think we're going to be branching to 6.
The best part, I think, of a walk is always when a donor and recipient gets to meet for the first time. It's always a really, special moment. And for me, it was a private one because I met his family in private. But anytime that there are other people there, it's really a special thing for everybody. Not just the 2 people who are up on the stage meeting for the first time and who are being introduced to them, each other and to the lifelong bond that they're going to share. It's also special for all the people who get to be there because it really, transcends that day, and it's something that really sticks with you. So that is really, the best part of the walks for me, and I think for a lot of people to be able to share in that moment.
And there's generally not a dry eye in the field. So it's very emotional. By the same token, it's very uplifting because you see somebody that probably would have perished if it wasn't for what I consider to be the perfect stranger. Nick, something that I documented before, you said that you were 22 years old when you got called.
Mm-hmm.
And we still utilize that age as a prime candidate. In fact, the age where a donor is most likely to be called is between the ages of 18 to 24. And it's something that you're paying forward with another colleague, another donor, and another Gift of Life employee. Alec Birkin started the Campus Ambassador Program, the acronym being CAP. So if you could tell us a little bit about the CAP program.
Sure. So the CAP program, Campus Ambassador Program is essentially Alec and I came up with this idea of how can we get more college students, swapped. These are the people who are the best matches. These are the people who are most often called. How do we concentrate our efforts on that population, and what can we do better to reach them? And pulling from both of our personal experiences, we came up with this program to essentially have campus reps all over the country. And for me, it was because I swapped at college, and if there had been, a campus ambassador at Emory when I was there, I'm sure a lot more people would have signed up. But there wasn't, so I was one of the few. For Alec, while he was a senior at Syracuse, where he went, he actually swapped about 1,000 people his senior year.
Correct.
Running time. And he thought, why can't other people do this? So together we both had these very distinct experiences where we thought, okay, this is a thing that could work. And to be able to show other college students that their peers are the ones asking them rather than some guy in an office in the middle of Florida or in New York or in Boston, we think that has going to have a lot more success and certainly carry a lot more weight, when it's fellow students ask.
Absolutely. And you ask a logical question, where are you going to find the greatest amount of 18 to 24-year-olds congregating in one area? And the logical answer would be at a university. So hence we started the Campus Ambassador Program, and this academic semester, I believe that we have 8 campus ambassadors predominantly on the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah, so we ran a pilot program this year to see, would it work? Would people want to be into it? Would colleges go for it? What can we learn from a management perspective of how to motivate students and all that good stuff? That's what a pilot program's for. So we have 8 sprinkled a little bit closer to where we're located on the East Coast, most of whom knew about Gift of Life and had some personal connection to it. And we were lucky enough to get it funded by LinkedIn. We were in touch with LinkedIn, and we got a grant for nonprofit innovation because they were so supportive of the idea and how it could transform bone marrow donor recruitment in the United States that they actually funded the entire program. And that and for many other reasons of how successful they're going to be is leading to the program growing even more next year.
Correct. And we want to give a special thanks to LinkedIn. They underwrote the whole pilot program this year, which was very generous, and their generosity is going to certainly help save lives. But Nick, at Gift of Life, we go big, so we're going from 8 to how many?
We're going to 100.
Right, so we're going to have 100 campus ambassadors at different universities and colleges all across the country. And why did we go with 100?
Really, the more you could have, the better. You know what I mean? These are kids that are going to be able to reach their friends and their fraternity or sorority members, their fellow members of clubs, societies, and classes. So the more campus reps you have, the better. And the reason they're going to be successful is for the reason I alluded to earlier, in that they'll just have more success than someone sitting in an office would who doesn't really know that particular campus, doesn't know the best place to hold the drive on campus, doesn't know the best events on campus to hold those events where people are going to come to. I think that, coupled with the fact that college students are relatively cheap labor, so to what they can accomplish in 10 hours a week is far more than someone sitting in an office could who's making more money than them and who is working 40 hours a week. Again, because of that familiarity that they have with their own campus. And, when we talk about having 25 campus ambassadors for every employee, you're talking about a lot of different colleges, a lot of different populations, a lot of people who never would have heard of Gift of Life but for that program existing. And that's one of the reasons it's so important.
I love this initiative. out of the 44, 45 employees that we have at Gift of Life, 40 are located in in Boca Raton. So it's difficult for us to mobilize across the country. This gives us the ability to mobilize. It's fiscally responsible. We're hitting the age demographic that we want by people that actually go to school in those respective regions. So it really encompasses everything from a strategic standpoint that we want to accomplish. And one day we might meet somebody in 2015 that reminds me of somebody that went to Emory in 2006 and saved a little boy's life. So over a 10-year period of time, Nick and Al, you may be finding your protege that's going to pay it forward.
Exactly, and I think the fact that there's going to develop, a whole little alumni network out of this program, and we're going to be able to go, 10 years ago, this guy was the rep over at, Boston University, and now here's the new one 10 years later, and it's going to build this whole network, and like you said, we're really going to be able to see how many more people register because of it, and they're going to be able to see direct results that benefit people who need it.
So I'm going to be self-serving to a person on the phone with me that was a hero that saved a 4-year-old's, at the time, life. Met when Cameron was 5. Now Cameron is going to be 12, Nicholas, and you're going to be walking with him at the Boston Walk at Chestnut Hill and on April the 26th. We have all these great initiatives in place. We're going to get the highest availability donors. We're going to save more lives. We need people's help to contribute. Any amount that they could contribute, that a person listening today, to please call up 1-800-9-MARROW. Whatever you could afford will go towards testing kits and, in essence, go towards saving lives. And again, I'm going to read the quote that I read before by Albert Einstein. It is every person's obligation to put back in the world at least the equivalent of what they take out of it. And I'm going to add a little bit and maybe try to do a little bit more. So, Nick, I cannot thank you enough for being a hero, for being a lifesaver, for being an exemplary employee, but most importantly, being a dear friend. So I thank you for sharing your timeline, and you're certainly paying it forward. So I wish you the best of luck. I look forward to seeing you soon, and I love you.
Oh, thanks so much, Greg. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and Patrick, you're doing a great job. Junior, I think you're dead spot.
What do you say, Patrick?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. You're going to have my seat soon. So everybody that's listening, this has been one of the high points of my life, where I get to have my 8-year-old son, Patrick, with me do my radio show, and it's something that I'm going to remember. And Patrick, if Dad could tell you a lesson that we have to make the world a better place than when we came into it, and that gentleman that we just spoke to really did that. So again, that was Nick Hudson. I'm getting the 1-minute mark from Ken on the other side of the glass. Everybody, I really appreciate you listening to the show. I certainly hope that Nick's story incentivized you to get involved. There are Jay Leno tickets available for sale. Any amount of money that you can contribute, 1-800-9-MARROW, would certainly be appreciated. Patrick, I thank you for joining me. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Everybody have a great week, and God bless.
Thanks for tuning in to The Gift of Life with Gregg. I wanted to personally say thank you to everyone who participated in today's show. And I also wanted to let you know if that you're interested in what we do here at The Gift of Life, please call 1-800-9-MARROW. That's 1-800-9-MARROW. Or you can visit our website at www.giftoflife.org. Again, that's www.giftoflife.org. Even though we're wrapping up our show today, remember, you must always unwrap the gift of life.